All right, guys, welcome back to the show. It's Friday. It's actually a beautiful day today. We're back out here at the Remington build. It's been a while since I've been here, the end of last fall. I prepared this foundation, which it's an ICF frost wall on a spread footing. If you guys are interested in that, you can go back and check those videos out. We'll leave a little link up here so you can watch those. This is going to be a 1,600 square foot post frame home on a continuous wall. We're going to get started hopefully next week. The weather looks really bad, but we're going to try to see if we can't get something done. So if you guys have any questions that you would like answered during this build series, leave them in the comments. We'll check them out. We'll try to answer them as we frame up this house. So this is kind of the second stage where we're going to frame the exterior. It's post frame, so we're going to do all the exterior walls first. Then we will do the underground electrical, plumbing, in-floor heat, and then we'll get the concrete in, and then we'll come back in and do all the interior walls. So today we're just out here. All the material just got delivered. We're just going through, getting things separated into piles, and so we know what we have. And then we'll lay out for our dry set brackets and start hopefully building walls next week. All right, so we've got most of our material kind of separated, and we're gonna start laying out for our dry set brackets. So we're gonna go ahead, even though this foundation was squared, it was nice square, I still have my corner locations marked. We're gonna check the angles and everything to make sure we're still good before we go ahead and pull a tape and mark where our brackets are gonna go. So we got that's 9 3/4, so 7 foot 9 3/4 from here to the inside edge of my first post, and then it's 8 foot 8 foot 6 foot. The first one 7 feet 9 3/4. Then 8 foot 8 foot 8 foot 6 foot. So 7 9 3/4 plus 8. 15 9 3/4. All right, guys, so we have this front 54-foot wall. This is going to be a side wall, so these columns are going to carry the weight of the truss. I do have a header down here over a window where there will be a truss sitting on. We'll cover that when we frame it up. But now that I have my post locations marked for my brackets, I have to make sure I'm 1.5 inches off that outside edge for my exterior girt. So all I'm going to do is take a 2x4. I put up a string line. See, I got my string line that runs from corner to corner. I have my posts, bracket locations marked. So now all I'm gonna do, I gotta get this tape out of the way. Just set this block up against the string line, and then I can just strike a line across here. And I know that is where the edge of my post has to be for it to work properly. And I'm just going to do that all the way down. All right, now that we have this long wall laid out, brackets marked, columns in place, set where they need to be, we have a wall right here perpendicular, parallel to that. So we're going to lay these 4 posts or 4 columns out. I think there's 5, 1 at each corner and then 3 in the middle. And then these posts out here will actually have a 6x6 cedar header that will actually carry the ends of the trusses, because this is a covered porch. So the trusses will extend past this wall, and sit on the header out there. So next in line is this wall right here. We'll line these up, make sure we got everything laid out according to the plans. All right, we have our front wall all marked out for our columns, and we have these two short walls that are parallel with it all marked out finally. It's supposed to rain, snow, sleet, so we're going to mark them with some paint so we don't lose them and have to repeat this, because I have a hard enough time keeping track of measurements. Ran my orange paint, stopped working. So I'm using blue paint. All right guys, we're starting to lay out our posts. We're gonna get them cut to length. We're gonna get them marked out for our girts. And so we're gonna make a template, or some people call it a storyboard. So I'm just gonna run you through how I go about doing that. So these side walls are 9-foot side walls, but we have this truss on this side is 36 inches just because it's got a pitch break in it. So this post is, I think, 14 feet long. So I have a 12-foot 2x6. You can use a 2x4. My 2x6 was just easy to grab. And we're going to mark everything out on this so we can go around to every single post on the house and transfer our marks. That way we're not pulling a tape measure and screwing up measurements. So we're going to get started, and I'm going to start out by marking my height of my grade board. So one thing to keep in mind with this build in particular is we're building on a continuous wall. So this continuous wall is actually our finished floor height in the house. You'll see that later on. If you were doing footings, you do have to figure for, you know, your gravel, your concrete, insulation, if you're doing in-floor heat, whatever the case may be. We'll show you that on another build. But I'm going to start my measurement from the bottom of this. This is going to be the finished floor right here. So I'm using a 2x12 grade board, so which is 11.5. So I'm going to make a mark, and then I'm just going to write on here grade board. So from there, this building is going to have wainscoting. So we have our bottom trim, which is going to sit, in this case, is going to sit flush with the grade. So I have 1-inch trim, and then I have a 36-inch wainscoting. So that'll be 37 inches. And I want a 2x6 nailer, and I want that to be the center so I have plenty of room for my trims on the bottom and my steel on the top. So we're going to use a 2x6 here. So half of a 2x6 is 5.5 inches. So that's 2 3/4. Is that right, Justin? 2 3/4, half of 5.5. Some people only mark the bottom side or the top side. I like to mark the top and the bottom so I can't screw it up. I mean, I probably still could. Then on this house, because this is going to be a residence, most residents are required to have outlets on the outside. You do not need this to hold the steel, but I'm going to place a 2x4 right in the middle here, so it's easy to attach a water spigot. It's easy to attach an electrical box. It just makes life a lot easier if you aren't sheeting your house. So we'll do roughly 12 inches as the center. I'm going to use a 2x4 for that. So half of a 2x4 is 1 3/4. So we'll make mark there, mark there. And now all the way around the house we'll have something that the electrician can mount electrical stuff to, or like water spigots. Now from there, I'm gonna do 2 foot on center girts. So I'm just gonna hold my tape measure on the top, mark, I'll put an X down here knowing that I gotta go below. 4 foot, make a mark, and let's see, so we got 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is roughly going to be our last one. So let me measure. Oh no, I gotta do one more. I was off. My math was off. So we gotta do one more. Hold that at the bottom. I'm just gonna mark 9 foot. 9 foot is actually gonna be the bottom of the truss here. Bottom truss. Mark this. 5.5 inches. So all of our basic marks are now laid out. Got a grade board. We've got our 2x4 nailer that sits halfway between the top of the grade board and our wainscot nailer. And then from this 2x6 wainscot nailer, we have girts 2 foot on center. And then up here, we have the bottom of the truss. And this is where we will cut our center. We'll mark and then cut our center ply out to set our truss inside the column. So all of these marks that I just placed on this board are something that's going to continue around the entire house. There are a couple places over windows where we're going to have 11 7/8 LVL headers. I just need to remember where those are going to be so I can mark them out on the columns that they affect. There's only 2 of those in this build, so it should be pretty easy. And we'll put one side of those on the ground before we put the columns up, and we'll show you that when we get to it. All right, guys, we went around and looked at the bottoms of all these columns. There was a couple that we straightened. They were just kind of uneven at the bottom, so we straightened those. Now we're going to go around with the laser, just hit all of our column locations just to make sure there's nothing odd. This was last fall when I completed this. It should be within a 1/4 inch. We're going to go ahead and mark them, and then we can start using our template to lay out all our columns with our 2x6 that we just marked out. All right, we went around with the laser, found the highest point on the foundation. And if you're asking yourself, why would we need to do that? I mean, this varies, you know, anywhere up to a 1/2 inch. And the reason is these columns are going to sit on dry set brackets. All the corner columns are just going to sit straight on the concrete. So that's, you know, 1/4 of an inch right there. So we went around, found the highest one, zeroed it, wrote down all our measurements. Now Jake's going along each column. You see this one needs to go up 5/16. So he's making a mark up 5/16, and that's where our storyboard or template will start. Let's see, this one was 3/16. So we're just going to do this wall. We don't have our dry set brackets yet, but we're going to get these all marked out, get all our 2x6 girts laid out so that we are ready to rock and roll. We are putting our LVL on here between these 2 bays. There's a 10-foot bay here because we got a huge window going in. So we got to put a 1 3/4, 11 7/8 LVL in. So that matches up with our 2x material. We have to notch it a 1/4 inch into our column. So that's what we're doing now, just using an electric planer. I'm just taking a 2x and making sure it'll match up at 1 3/4 inches, which I gotta take a little more off that side. This side's almost there. We planed this down, I think we're close, so we set the LVL where it needs to go, and then I'm gonna check it with 2x. So you can see we sit flush there, flush there. So now we can cut this and get it all nailed in. All right, typically we would set these first, but since we didn't have these, I went ahead and framed up my wall. So we have all our columns where they need to be. We got our brackets. The string line is the outside dimension of our actual wall. So I'm gonna set this in 1.5 inches. So I'm just going off the string line. I'm gonna make sure I'm at least an 1.5 inches in. I could go a little bit more, but if I set it exactly 1.5 inches, then I know my column just sits flush with the back of this this bracket. Alright guys, so we lifted that wall. When you're lifting, you just kind of got to see how it's reacting. We had to make a couple changes. And now we got them in place. I just got to lower it and then we'll square them up or plumb them up and screw them in. If you don't want to use a tape measure, and just take a block 2x2x. Right there, Jake. Yep. One side, good go. It's always nerve-wracking lifting the first wall. So we got these two walls up, we gotta put them back together. So we're just gonna use a ratchet strap to squeeze this together, because when we built this wall, squared it, these were tight. So we gotta get this back tight before we nail these in. like that. All right, now. That's good, Jake. You ready? All right. Now, just make sure these are lined up. And we can nail them in. I'll just throw a screw in there to hold it. I'll just throw a screw in this middle one, then we can take it out. Go. What's the name of our new nail gun, Jake? You gotta name it. What are we gonna name our new nail gun so we don't have to do this anymore? All right, we got this wall all up here, so we're gonna do the opposite walls, which it's a little different because we got a porch that's cut into the house over here, so we got all our columns laid out. Now we're gonna take our storyboard or template, and we're gonna mark all these posts. We also have the brackets all mounted already too, so I'm gonna take this, mark everything, cut everything, get the columns that need to be notched for the trusses notched. We got a header in over here. We're gonna get all that done, see what time it is, and then if we don't get any of these up, at least tomorrow morning we'll be ready to stand all these walls. Bottom of truss. So this is where we'll cut this post off because the trusses go past. All right, we got all these posts laid out. The trusses will extend from this front wall all the way out to the back wall. There is a cut in on the porch, but the trusses are actually gonna sit on the porch header. So these posts right here are gonna get cut off at the ceiling height. And then the trusses will just kind of go right over the top. They will touch the top girt, but this wall technically won't bear any of the roof weight. It'll be the two outside walls. So we're gonna, we don't have a huge skill saw yet. We have ordered it, it's supposed to be here today, but typically what I do is I use my little chainsaw to cut all the posts off where I want them. So we're gonna do that now, and then we're gonna start laying out this wall. I'm gonna look at this wall right here. And it'll say corner brace, because right here we have a door, so we can't put one there. We have window. So all we have is a room for is a corner brace right here. So let's put that in before we put the wall up. And then this one, looks like we get 3 corner braces. When we put this, we'll get one here and one in here. That one to this one. Just put it flush at that end and that line. sand that to the side so you're not getting flat in the face. Alright guys, we have the 3 walls all framed up. Jake's finishing off shooting nails in this end wall we just put up. But before we can start trusses, the way this is designed, I'm standing in this back indented area. It's 10 feet by, I don't know, 8, 16, 24, about 32 feet porch. So the trusses are going to come over and they're going to actually sit on the header of these porch posts. This is going to be a post and beam porch out of 6x6 cedar. So we have 4 posts and then a beam that goes across that will tie in to this wall here. So that's what we're going to work on now. The first thing I got to do is shoot these bottom of these posts to see what the grade is, to see how much I have to adjust my post. And then we'll get them cut to length. We'll put each post in its place, plumb it, and then we will put our 6x6 header across, and we'll use like 12-inch lags that go down through the top into the post. After we get that done, then we can put up our end truss and go along and start doing trusses all the way across. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick which end I want to be the bottom. That end's nice and square, so I'm using that. My ceiling height is 9 foot. My footing sits 4¼ inches lower on this particular one. So I need to measure up 9 feet 4¼ inches. So I measure up 9 feet, 1, 2, 3, 4 quarter, make my mark. Now this is a post and beam porch, so these 6x6s here are going to sit on top of this. So now I got to subtract 6 inches to make up for that. I like to make my 9 foot mark plus my difference in my footing height and then measure back from that. That way I'm not screwing it up, and it's just simpler this way for me. So here's 9 4¼ I mark back 6 inches, and that's where I'm going to cut this post off, and then my 6x6 header will sit on this, and then the top will be 9 feet, hypothetically. So we're going to do the rest of them, and then we'll cut all these off with our new Super Sasquatch, or whatever it's called. The next step with these is these are going to be supporting the truss. So we went ahead and used wet set brackets on our porch footings. These are true 6x6s. Those brackets are for, I believe, 5 3/4. So we're going to have to mill these down just a little bit, and we'll use our hand planer, but I'm going to go ahead and measure. But I'm pretty sure, I don't think they make a true 6x bracket. It's the same with dimensional lumber. It's always like 1/4 short, so we have to plane like 1/8 off each side. So we're going to find out how high we got to come and then plane the 2 sides equally, and then that bracket will kind of just sit inside. Since these posts are on a porch and these are going to be exposed, I don't run bolts through here. I'm just going to put some lags just so there's not big silver bolts sticking out. Perfect right there. Oh yeah. All right. All right, guys, that's gonna be a wrap for this first, I guess, framing video. We talked about brackets, columns, you know, installing girts. We appreciate you guys watching. Honestly, if you have any questions, put them in the comments and we'll do our best to answer them. We got more builds coming up after this, so if it was on something we've already done, we can cover it on the next build. We really appreciate you guys watching. The next video will cover trusses. We're gonna start installing trusses tomorrow. We still got the front porch to build. Lots of good stuff coming. And as always, we appreciate you guys watching. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and we will catch you on the next video.